Hello and good morning from the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association. I'm Patrick Farnsworth. This is your Access and Privacy Online News Summary for Saturday, January 31st. This week, artificial intelligence is colliding with privacy, democracy, and public trust. From Google's move to fold personal data directly into AI-powered search, to renewed federal plans for an online harms bill that could reshape how Canadians, especially children, experience the internet. We're also tracking how access to information requests continue to reveal gaps in accountability, from policing and municipal spending to environmental protection, while privacy failures inside police forces, public utilities, and care homes raise urgent questions about oversight and transparency. And in the United States, we'll look at platform power, data breaches, voter privacy, and what happens when democratic processes slip out of public view. Let's dive in. We begin this week with artificial intelligence and how rapidly expanding AI systems are testing the limits of privacy, regulation, and democratic resilience. Google is rolling out a new personal intelligence option that allows its AI search mode to draw directly from users' Gmail and Google Photos to deliver highly personalized responses. From reports at the Associated Press, the feature promises convenience, but it also requires users to trust Google with even deeper access to intimate personal data. Some argue that everyone has already been doing that by entering sometimes intimate inquiries into the search engine or sharing personal information within Gmail and the Photos app. Google will also be partnering with Apple to bring more AI to products like iPhones, iPads, and Macs. The partnership will focus on making Apple's AI helper, Siri, into a more conversational and versatile aid. As AI tools move closer to people's daily lives, the trade-offs between personalization and privacy are becoming harder to ignore. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the federal government is again signaling movement on online harms legislation. Artificial Intelligence Minister Evan Solomon says a new bill is coming, separate from privacy reforms and justice legislation, with a renewed focus on protecting children online. While officials have not confirmed reports of a possible social media ban for children under 14, they haven't ruled it out either, underscoring how unsettled this policy space remains. In 2024, the Liberal government introduced a similar Online Harms Act, which would have imposed new requirements on social media companies and created an online regulator. The bill, which never became law, also would have put in place a 24-hour takedown provision for content that sexually victimizes a child and for intimate content shared without consent, including deepfakes. Under Prime Minister Mark Carney, the Liberals signaled they would not bring the bill back in the same form, but would instead tackle aspects of online harms in other legislation. Solomon has said his upcoming privacy bill would include the right to delete deepfakes. Staying with online harms, reports also examine what such legislation might actually include, with considerations expanding to include social media platforms and AI chatbots. Experts warn that excluding AI-driven systems would miss where the real risks are emerging, especially as generative tools enable deepfakes, misinformation, and psychological harm at scale. Against that backdrop, civil society groups have launched the People's Consultation on AI, a nationwide initiative responding to what the federal government has undertaken. From our perspective, the federal government's consultation is a rushed, industry-heavy process which is designed to sideline public input and consideration of human rights and societal concerns. The civil society consultation invites communities, experts, and impacted groups to weigh in on whether and how AI should be governed in Canada. FIPA is actively involved, and submissions are open until March 15th, offering a rare opportunity for meaningful public participation in AI governance. As we've been warning about Bill C-4, Part 4, there is an important consideration in this segment, and a stark warning about where unchecked AI can lead. Research published in Science and highlighted by #trending outlines how malicious AI swarms, networks of autonomous, coordinated AI agents, can manipulate public opinion on an unprecedented scale. By mimicking human behavior and fabricating consensus, these systems pose a direct threat to democratic processes. one that cannot be solved by voluntary industry safeguards alone. These systems can expand propaganda, can be used to make more believable falsehoods through prompt chains, and these results can sometimes be rated as more human like than falsehoods written by humans. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all this material. It's just one of the reasons we're fighting against Canadian deregulation of political parties' use of your personal information. Turning now to other updates from FIPA's network. Fellow openness advocates and members of the Right to Information Alliance of Canada are sounding the alarm over early federal proposals to reform Canada's access to information system. Reports show a draft Treasury Board discussion paper obtained through access requests, acknowledging long-standing problems, including poor record keeping and excessive delays. The report also expresses reservations about the Information Commissioner's steady increase in the use of her powers to issue legally binding orders to departments. Critics worry the proposals could weaken requesters' rights and limit the Information Commissioner's enforcement powers, rather than fix a system that has struggled for decades. The government appears to have focused on better administration of the law, not changes to the legislation, which hasn't been fully overhauled since its passage more than 40 years ago. Treasury Board says it plans to publish policy proposals and conduct formal engagement with interested parties and Indigenous groups this winter. Staying with civil liberties, FIPA is a member of the International Civil Liberties Monitoring Group and is now republishing their activities. This week saw a renewed commitment to combat Islamophobia on the National Day of Remembrance and Action Against Islamophobia. They identify national security laws, surveillance practices, and restrictions on protests that continue to disproportionately target Muslim communities, often under the guise of counterterrorism. This includes Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act. ICLMG identifies the legislation as aimed at preventing hate crimes, but instead threatens the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and right to dissent for all people in Canada, including those communities that the government says it wishes to protect. The ICLMG is urging senators to oppose Bill C-12, which it says would fast-track measures undermining the rights of refugees and migrants while allowing privacy-violating provisions from earlier legislation, Bill C-2, to proceed. The group is calling on Canadians to speak out by emailing their senators before the bill advances further. You can find this information on our site with links back to the ICLMG to take action. We now turn to Canadian stories where access to information requests are shedding light on government actions, and in some cases, deepening public concern. 4 years after the Nova Scotia mass shooting, the RCMP approved 32 awards for officers and staff involved in the response and subsequent public inquiry. The details only became public through access requests, and the files are heavily redacted, with no names released. This comes despite the inquiry's finding of widespread failures in the Mounties' response to the mass shooting, saying the RCMP was poorly organized and failed to promptly send alerts to the public until it was too late for some victims. The inquiry also determined that the Mounties missed warning signs about the killer, including reports of domestic violence, possession of illegal firearms, and repeated run-ins with the law. In Newfoundland and Labrador, Justin Brake, LGI reporter at The Independent, reports that the province's new progressive conservative government is inviting public input ahead of Budget 2026. The government announced a 28-day window for residents and business owners to fill out an online questionnaire on the government's Engage NL website. They also said the government will hold virtual sessions in the coming weeks and that residents can also make pre-budget submissions by email and snail mail. However, past access to information data shows participation in pre-budget consultations has been strikingly low, raising questions about whether these engagement processes meaningfully capture public priorities. The deadline for all pre-budget consultation submissions is February 18, 2026. In Ontario, transparency concerns are mounting in Brampton. Mohammed Hamza, LGI reporter at The Pointer, reports that documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests reveal tens of thousands of dollars spent on overseas trips by counselors and staff, including a trip to Taiwan where airfare alone cost $5,600 for one counselor. None of the documents provided by Brampton staff under the Freedom of Information request include a reason for sending one member of council and one City Hall employee to Taiwan. This is all while Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown claims fiscal belt tightening. Missing itineraries, incomplete receipts, and unexplained travel logs, or reasons for making the trips, have left residents in the dark about what, if anything, taxpayers received in return. And in Springwater Township, Wayne Doyle, LGI reporter at Barrie Today, reports that council erupted into chaos over whether to release legal invoices tied to a boundary dispute. The invoices in question are for work done after Springwater Mayor Jennifer Coughlin fired the legal firm using strong mayor powers on November 8th last year. After heated exchanges and walkouts, councilors immediately voted unanimously to make the invoices public, but only after they're paid in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, highlighting ongoing tensions around transparency and public spending. We'll close this segment with environmental access reporting. Rochelle Baker, LGI reporter at Canada's National Observer, reveals that nearly 86,000 marine animals were killed or injured by abandoned ghost gear between 2020 and 2023, a figure obtained through access requests to Fisheries and Oceans Canada. In social media videos, the DFO is still showcasing Canada's pioneering ocean conservation efforts to combat the ghost gear problem, which the department describes as a major threat to marine life, commercial fish stocks, and food security, ocean habitats, and coastal livelihoods. Core pillars of the Ghost Gear program to retrieve the plastic pollution and responsibly dispose of, recycle, or return ghost gear have been cut completely or dramatically scaled back since the program launched in 2020. Shifting now to Canadian privacy stories, where failures in oversight and accountability carry very real human consequences. In Winnipeg, a former police officer has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for selling drugs, obstructing justice, and photographing a deceased woman. The Canadian Press reports that the judge described the case as a dark day for public confidence in policing, underscoring how deeply abuses of access and authority can undermine trust. The officer was arrested after an internal probe, resulting in a search through the officer's phone, surveillance cameras being installed in his police cruiser without his knowledge, audits, and the analysis of GPS data. In Nova Scotia, public frustration is boiling over after the province's power utility asked customers to conserve energy during extreme cold, despite proposing rate hikes of nearly 8%. Online backlash has been fierce, with many questioning why consumers are being asked to compensate for infrastructure and governance failures. Premier Tim Houston has said the utility is out of touch for requesting a rate hike in the aftermath of the massive data breach last fall. In a news release, Nova Scotia Power said they have already seen localized outages related to the cold weather, and any system-wide issue could result in rotating power outages across the province. In Alberta, privacy and transparency concerns intersect at a massive Edmonton long-term care home battling a prolonged mouse infestation. Health authorities have declined to release the most recent inspection report, citing privacy concerns, a move opposition critics say improperly shields systemic failures from public scrutiny. Opposition NDP health critic Sarah Hoffman said there's no excuse for withholding the details of the inspection. Hoffman also said the government needs to beef up its whistleblower protections, so staff across publicly funded organizations can better flag situations like the one at Edmonton General. Documents obtained by the Canadian Press suggest authorities knew about the mice infestation at the facility for almost 2 years. Meanwhile, the organization said it's keeping an eye on the situation, including the risk of viruses known to spread from mouse droppings. And in Manitoba, Maggie McIntosh, LGI reporter at the Winnipeg Free Press, reports on a school division promoting anonymous tip lines that allow students to report safety issues without revealing personal information. While the tool has helped address problems early, it also raises important questions about data handling, oversight, and how anonymity is balanced with accountability. Due to repeated reports on the tool about safety-related issues in bathrooms, it resulted in the Board of Trustees fast-tracking major renovations. The board spent about $250,000 to gut and replace traditional male and female bathrooms inside the Prince Charles building at the school, with 9 brightly lit gender-neutral stalls that are equipped with floor-to-ceiling doors. Turning now to the United States. TikTok has finalized a deal to form a new American entity, avoiding a nationwide ban. While U.S. user data will be stored domestically, unresolved questions remain about who ultimately controls the platform's powerful recommendation algorithm, a central concern in the national security debate. It is known that the recommendation algorithm will be restrained, tested, and updated on U.S. user data, though. However, the law prohibits, quote, any cooperation with respect to the operation of a content recommendation algorithm, end quote, between ByteDance and a new potential American ownership group, so it is unclear how ByteDance's continued involvement in this arrangement will play out. The Federal Trade Commission says it will appeal a court ruling that sided with Meta in a major antitrust case. The appeal keeps alive questions about platform dominance and whether existing competition laws are equipped to address modern digital monopolies. The FTC said it continues to allege that, for more than a decade, Meta Platforms Inc. has illegally maintained a monopoly in social networking through anti-competitive conduct, quote, by buying the significant competitive threats it identified in Instagram and WhatsApp, end quote. Meanwhile, Under Armour is investigating a data breach affecting up to 72 million email addresses. The breach was believed to have occurred late last year in 2025. While the company says no financial information was compromised, privacy experts are questioning the delay in public disclosure. Affected personal information included names, genders, birth dates, and zip codes. In Wisconsin, the shutdown of the nonprofit network that broadcasts legislative proceedings has left lawmakers meeting outside of public view, with open government advocates warning the loss of routine public access undermines democratic accountability. Wisconsin Eye has broadcast every floor session of the state Senate and Assembly since 2007 for free, before it went dark in mid-December. Created as a private, independent nonprofit, Wisconsin Eye has provided live coverage of court hearings, news conferences, legislative committee hearings, and numerous other government proceedings. When Wisconsin Eye stopped its free live broadcasts, it also shut down its website that contains more than 30,000 hours of archived footage. Moving to Oregon, a federal judge has dismissed the U.S. Justice Department's attempt to obtain Oregon's unredacted voter rolls. Claire Rush at the Associated Press reports the court found the request lacked a lawful basis, reinforcing concerns about voter privacy and federal overreach. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said the court dismissed the case because the federal government never met the legal standard to get these records in the first place. The Justice Department has been seeking detailed voter data that includes names, dates of birth, residential addresses, driver's license numbers, and partial social security numbers. Officials in many states have said turning over such information would violate both state and federal privacy laws. We close with the case of a Chinese asylum seeker who exposed human rights abuses in Xinjiang and is now fighting deportation from the United States. His case highlights growing fears that asylum protections are being eroded amid aggressive immigration enforcement, even for those who risked everything to expose state violence. A judge is to consider his appeal to remain in the United States, where he sought asylum after fleeing his homeland more than 4 years ago to publish video footage of detention facilities in China's Xinjiang region. He is among tens of thousands of asylum seekers who have been swept up in mass deportation efforts in the past year, despite having what they believe to be legitimate claims to stay in the United States. As always, we hope today's stories help you stay informed about the latest issues shaping privacy, information management, and public transparency. Just a quick reminder, Bill C-4 is now heading toward second reading in the Senate. We've updated our online resources, and you may even see something from FIPA in your mailbox. It's never too late to contact your senator or member of parliament, so be sure to check the show notes. To help us keep the mics on, please consider subscribing through FIPA News Monitoring or making a donation. Our writer is Sean Fisk. Original music in today's show is composed by Breakmaster Cylinder. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, your host and producer. Thank you for joining us, and a sincere FIPA thank you to all the reporters, outlets, and listeners who make this work possible. Stay safe and stay informed.